Welcome back to the Restaurant Masters podcast. And today we are going to dive into the topics that really are about how you as an executive or as an individual that's in the restaurant space that maybe has lost your job, maybe you've been downsized, could be a whole plethora of stuff that has happened to you in your career. And we wanted to dive into this in terms of how do you prepare for this? How do you kind of position yourself with Helen Lao, who is the CEO and founder of ClearPath Solutions. Great to have you on, Helen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Helen, let's jump into a little bit about ClearPath. You guys are kind of a little different type of organization when it comes to building teams. Give me your elevator pitch of how you guys go to market.
Yeah, we actually consider ourselves executive matchmakers. We really match leaders to teams. Oftentimes it's emerging brands that have received an infusion of capital, whether it be family office, private equity, and they're looking to put together a professional management team. It's kind of where my team and I step in, and what we do is we work across all disciplines, whether it's finance, operations, HR. And we work at the C-level and also for board seats as well.
Interesting. Okay, so you're working with the emerging brand categories. Obviously, there's probably a ton of traction in the fast casual space. Where do you see kind of the growth markets occurring right now in the restaurant and hospitality area?
Well, I think it's been obviously 2020 was an extremely challenging year that's really honestly challenged a lot of people's norms and kind of their business a little bit different. I think, the pandemic did not impact the industry equally. And what we saw was people who were ready or, already had an off-premise business really kind of boomed, right? Or if they had drive-throughs. And so I think, as we look forward, looking at how are they developing, right? Like what does real estate look like? Everyone's going after drive-throughs and people are trying to become pandemic proof, I guess, in many ways. So I really do believe that it's actually changed. We've actually shifted consumer behaviors as an industry where, picking up or convene with third-party delivery. I mean, people are at home, right? Working from home, ordering in. I mean, it's really changed the landscape in terms of how people are dining. However, people are dying to get back, and actually go to a full-service restaurant and actually have the experience. It's what people have been missing, so it's changed a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into kind of the topic we want to drive in, and this is dealing with setbacks in your career. Maybe you're an executive in one of these emerging brands. They've downsized, or maybe their positioning has changed in the marketplace, and you find yourself maybe for the first time in your career out of work. What are some of the things that as you are obviously matchmaking, key level executives to the right kinds of brands? What are some of the things that you're coaching or working with your partners with in terms of the actual executives that are out there looking for work or maybe have work that can kind of deal with something like this? What is one of the first steps that they would take?
Yeah, first of all, there is so much talent out there right now. I mean, just incredible people with great skill sets. I think, come mid-March, a lot of companies weren't sure what it was going to look like last year. I heard from executives all across the country that, as an entire executive team took pay cuts or, had to furlough their staff or furlough teams. Setbacks have happened to all of us, Paul.
Sure.
I mean, it has at some point in our career. And I think the question really is like, what's the first right from there? I think people get paralyzed, not sure what steps to take. And, I would start by, it's certainly a process, it's certainly a process. And, so many people have been impacted. And I find myself, and I know my team does as well, as we're fielding so many phone calls right now. There's still a lot of uncertainty out there, but I actually would challenge everybody to kind of take a moment and reassess. It's not often, right? I mean, I think a lot of people were caught off guard. Certainly there are still executives today that are taking a reduction in pay just to be able to get on to the other side of this. And I think
Hmm.
reassessing is so important. We're, especially in the hospitality industry, it's a 24/7 business. And just kind of taking a moment, reflecting, and thinking about what you want the future to look like. I think oftentimes, I always say people are very opportunistic, and something comes along like, hey, this is great, pick up my family and move, versus kind of charting out their path and kind of looking at, where was I my best? When did I enjoy my job the most? And
Right.
what could that possibly look like?
I like that approach with kind of self-assessment with not only yourself but also kind of mapping your skill set to what's happening in the marketplace right now. Obviously, with the restaurant industry, we've seen a pretty dynamic shift to the digital kind of ecosystem that has really kind of set the tone for growth in the next decade, really. Obviously, these people are probably feeling a lot of different kinds of emotions right now. Uh, and like you said, they may be quick to react or, maybe go a direction out of panic. What are some of the things do you have to do to kind of settle your position down and be really in the right state of mind to be ready to go to your next adventure?
I say this a lot, Paul. I ask people, and it amazes me how many people don't know, right? Where I ask them is, go and seek feedback. Everybody should have a personal board of directors. I always say that that's going to give you honest and candid feedback. What amazes me sometimes is when we talk about references and we get to the point where we're asking for professional references, and you should never wonder what the person is going to be saying about you, and it blows my mind. It's like, do you know what these individuals would actually say about you? And I think, it's part of that assessing and reassessing where you're currently at and where you want to be. I always have
Yeah.
this saying where people should not only not be opportunistic, but also have a very realistic preview in terms of what their skill sets are and what their strengths are. Nobody's good at everything, and it's almost recognizing that we all have a ceiling. And, instead of like wanting the bigger title, the greater, I really kind of have people think about like what is most important to you at this stage in your career. I think what's important to you at 20 looks really different than when you're 50 versus when you're getting ready to retire. I think priorities shift, but sometimes I think people apply the same blueprint to kind of what success should look like, and that's not always the case. It's not the best way to approach it.
Yeah, yeah. Are you finding the skill set starting to shift? Because in the past 3 decades, it's kind of been an evolution of, good restaurant operations, typical, nuts and bolts of how to run a restaurant versus today, with so much movement into digital. Are you seeing executives and teams that are really either maybe they're underperforming in certain skills, or maybe they're over-indexing and just haven't been discovered yet? What are you finding out there?
Look, I think great operators are always great operators, right? I mean, I do think there's a big shift, and for those who are embracing technology and the digital world, that they're because I think restaurants are a little bit behind, when it comes to technology. I have these
Right.
conversations all the time, and we're starting to see a lot of companies putting in CTOs, CIOs, and even marketing and technology are coming together in a really big way. So I think that while things are changing on the front of operations, look, a great operator is still a great operator. And, but embracing technology and understanding where that's taking us and how the consumers are behaving. I mean, we're seeing the pandemic accelerated this for us, and people were like, gosh, we better start contactless, curbside, right, QR codes. I mean, we saw all of
Hmm.
this happen within a 9-month period. And those restaurants that were able to pivot and shift, and kind of embrace technology are going to be the ones that come out the other side.
Yeah. Have you seen executives kind of either, let's say, for instance, I'm an executive, I'm maybe a little bit more old school. I'm going to reassess kind of where my current skill set is and really dive in to understanding more about what I need to be doing as an executive so that the next company that I work with, I'm ready to take them on. Are you seeing kind of that self-education start to occur?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily, I'm trying to think about some specific examples. I mean, I think a lot of folks are, and I know like LinkedIn, I think that that was a question. I get that question a lot. But, you know, they're actually offering up these free, almost like master class workshops. And,
Right,
you know,
right.
I would always encourage everyone to kind of take a moment, and technology is moving so quickly. Gosh, I find myself asking my kids about certain, you know, technology and apps. I think it's moving very, very quickly. I think strong executive teams are getting ahead of this.
Hmm.
Look, it's not about solving just for a POS system, right? Or a third party delivery. I think all of those things come together, and it's those executives that see the bigger picture and saying, gosh, look, I don't know, right? I don't know, but I'm going to go out and kind of learn best in classes, kind of seeing what some of the retailers are doing, and recognizing that nobody has the answers to this. I mean, this is new for all of us.
Yeah, I think that's that's the big transition that has occurred, and it's kind of going across all sectors. Restaurant industry
Yeah.
isn't the only one, but it is one of the ones that has been hit the most. I think when you look at this as a whole.